You got to let the river take its course. And the river know right where it's going.
Hey, what's going on out there, YouTube family? This is Sammy Leggy here representing Team JVS. I'm back here again for another TV show review. I thought about doing an individual review for each episode as it comes out, but it does not drop until March the 11th, I believe. And I'm talking about The Last Days of Ptolemy Grey. Now, this is on Apple TV Plus, and this is starring the amazing Samuel Jackson. And Samuel is playing Ptolemy Grey. He is a man that, when you first see him, he's very paranoid. He's very sheltered. He's not kept up very well. His house is in disarray, and outside of his cousin, like coming to his house and checking on him and trying to help him, nobody's in his corner, and he is dealing with an extreme decline from dementia. Now, I'm going to say this because I don't want to say that I'm biased, but I am right now going through a family loss, and I started watching this, and I was worried that it was going to hinder like my thoughts, about the family member that I did lose. And this is not spoiling or saying anything is going to happen to Ptolemy, because this just says The Last Days of Ptolemy Grey, but that doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. But the reality of what the core of this show is about is the remembrance, the appreciation, and the valuing of an individual that is in your life, that's a part of your family, right? And like, for some reason, when Ptolemy, started falling into dementia and was by himself, none of his family members were really there for him. And unfortunately, on top of him slowly starting to lose it and maybe getting a breakthrough with an appointment with somebody, even more of a tragic moment happens. And from that platform, that is where Dominique Fishback, if you've seen, oh my gosh, she's an amazing actress. I'm just not even gonna go into all that. But she plays the role of Robyn, and Robyn is not necessarily a blood relative, but she sees him first at a funeral location, and she's just kind of like, I ain't studying this old man, And then she, helps him back to his house, and she sees how he's living. She sees what's going on with him, and she decides to put aside her actual issues herself to be there for this man. And I'll say this, I've missed Samuel Jackson, on a series format like this. Like, and I'm not saying that, I didn't love him in, The Kingsman. I didn't love him in what he's doing with the Avengers, or I didn't love him. But, I mean, this is like, Samuel Jackson is a serious actor. Now, this role telling me, yeah, he has his, moments where breaking of comedy and stuff like that, but there's more serious and emotional, turmoil and tragedy and trauma that Samuel Jackson's allowing to be moved through him, through his acting in this, that I've seen in a very long time. And I think that his performance, it accounts to that. And as well as Dominique. Dominique is a beast in this. She murders this role of Robyn, because Robyn, she's got her own tragedy. She's got her own, PTSD, as it were, herself. Like, she sleeps with a knife. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's looked at from outside as this girl that's really pretty, but it's just really jaded. But really, she's got a lot of darkness going on the inside of her. And some kind of a way, their connection changes their outcome. Like, and just everything that happens from the point that he goes and takes the serum, things completely even more so change from that. So it continues to escalate and build. I think I believe like 7 episodes. And I brought up early on that I was concerned about watching this because I was worried that it was going to make me feel very highly emotional and very concerned. But really what was happening is, in my grieving process that I'm dealing with now, it allowed me to be able to appreciate. It allowed me to be able to feel, allowed me to be able to think back to certain moments and things that I really missed and cared about, my relative. And it was very a euphoric like experience. It wasn't something that I felt like, it was never a moment in this show that they did something that I felt like was unbecoming of the characters, because all the characters are fundamentally flawed. Like every character, every single one of them, like they do some really shady stuff at certain times. There's one point where Robyn, I think early on, decides to go and take something that she shouldn't, you know. There's one moment where you see like a flashback of Ptolemy and what he used to be like and what he did. And I was like, man, I don't know if that's the right thing to do here. And when you start to go down the rabbit hole and you see that this all started when this kid was 7 years old and his mentor, Cornhole, or Cornhell, set in motion some things to hopefully give this young boy a future that would basically spread for everybody around him. That's where all the things that make him what he is now. And I think the thing about it is watching him with dementia and at his worst, and then seeing him better. I think that's the thing that's so, from a range standpoint, it's fascinating, but even deeper than that from the story standpoint, because it allows you to see who's really there for him. And also to see how much of an impact he really has. And I think that foundationally is one of the most important things about this show, is that you think that people that are suffering, that are not doing well, or their mental health is not there, that, you know, they're not just a burden, but they're not becoming of anything of service. But it's not true. And the show shines a light on that. And I think that the way that Samuel Jackson's character flows, and especially the way his character is written, is so strategic. It's so specific, and it's filled with a lot of tragedy, hurt, and pain, but a lot of devotion, a lot of love, and a lot of intrigue and mystery. I think that's one of the most fascinating things about it. And I've talked and gassed this show up so much. I've talked about the acting. I've talked about the characters. I think that the cinematography, I think it could be a lot better. There are some really great transitional scenes and some great imagery and some really heavy, messed up imagery, especially when Ptolemy start to go and bleed between the past and the present. And also, like, if you've seen the movie The Father or The Colombian, you will see something about what dementia really is. And this show shines another light on it because it's allowed to take time with it, and how, you know, what looks to be like a dream is really you reliving a memory, and how that can happen on the spot of a dime, and how that can turn you upside down in your perception of people. Because there was a couple different times it scared me, and that's why I said the transitions are great, where I was worried that there's some unbecoming things that could happen. And in a director's hands that was not using a lot of tact or taste, they might have crossed certain lines that I feel like would have done a disservice to the work and the effort that's being written down on the paper from the script. The only thing that I had a slight issue with was really the way that things concluded. I felt as though when it came to this specific show, that it felt like it was rounding out very quickly. When you know how like you have like a mini series and you know it's a mini series and you know it's got to like end, that's what this felt like. But the context from what I read on the read up, I mean, I don't know if this is a mini series or if this is just a season 1. I don't really know. But the way that it ended so, it just ended really quickly. And I was kind of like, either one, you know, I feel like it would have been better serviced in 2 episodes to allow the progression of the weight of what happens, you know, to really set in versus like a quick boom, boom, boom. And that's what I kind of felt with it, even though, you know, after some time, because initially my initial reaction was, I was like, I don't like the way this ended. That was my initial reaction. Then after some time thinking it over and processing it, and I thought about rewatching it again because I really loved it. Is that I was like, I see why and the how. Like it's so important. Like some of the things that happen in the conclusion are very important and key to the building blocks of certain characters. Specifically the character Robyn that Dominique excellently played. The biggest thing about it, though, is it felt really rushed to me, and it also begged to question certain characters and what was the point of them. Like, there are things that are set up in this with certain characters that, to me, the loop isn't closed, and it was like it just ended, and none of those loops really materialized to me. And I'm very curious to see if there is going to be a second season, and if it is, where is it going to go? Because I mean, even from the start, you know, I saw, you know, how this, you know, show started. I was like, it said the last day of Ptolemy Grey, but the way that things are concluded and the way that things go is not exactly what you think. And this is hard because everybody knows, like, Game of Thrones is a really good example. Like, a ending that people don't feel or vibe with can change the whole course in the perspective of the whole, which is crazy. It's true, though. And this one plays a very thin line with that. And I think only because it feels really rushed, and just kind of concluding things and getting to a point. And I don't know if that may be from a budget standpoint, why that is like that. I don't know if it's because the actors are not available. I don't know if it's because that was the initial motivation of the narrative. The problem is that it's just so good. Like the first 6 episodes, like it just builds and builds and builds and builds, and character development and progression and understanding of love and understanding of sacrifice, understanding the devotion, understanding of, like, Walter Goggins is in this. Walter Goggins is in this show. And like Samuel Jackson refers to him as Satan. Like straight up, like look, this is your day. And it's not a you know, a tell of, it's just his perspective of who the character is. It's not necessarily the character what the character actually is, just to be clear. But I'm just saying that even Walter Goggins plays a very good and pivotal role in this. And I don't know, there's just so much good here that is set up for more, but it kind of concludes where it just ends. And I really don't know. And that leaves me with this weird impression of the show. If the conclusion, I think, was done a little bit differently or better, I guess, I would probably give this a 10 out of 10. Straight up. I'm arrested at a 9 out of 10. I got behind all of it. And then maybe from a cultural standpoint, like, I really vibed with the family dynamics. I was like, I get it. I understand everything that's going on. Even from an environment standpoint, like what was really going on, where they were at, and in the neighborhood and things, and how things played out. All of it was very believable. But there are things that they leave foundationally, like little holes. Not even holes, like it was almost like breadcrumbs to show you where this character is and where it's going, why this character's doing this. And it just doesn't feel like the work is finished here. And I don't know if this is just it. maybe I need to go and research that. Is this just a miniseries, just a one and done, or is this a possibility of moving forward? Because there are some shows that conclude and just end in such a finite way. You're just like, oh well, but then it just comes back. So I don't know, and I don't want to give anything away either. But I will say that this was it was an excellent time for me, and I really appreciate the devotion and care of the characters that Samuel Jackson and Dominique had, as well as their chemistry, bro. Like there's a line where they're in the kitchen, and I think that Dominique's Robyn was like, I think Samuel asked her a question like, where do you know about love? Where you learn love from? And she's like, what you think? And that conversation and how real that gets, I was like, yo, I don't know who wrote this, but and I think that's the thing about this, that this was written by somebody that understands not just from a cultural standpoint, but the importance of characters and what characters are to each other and what they can be to each other. And the human element, if the human element hits and works, and the actors are willing to sacrifice everything to make sure that is, because I mean, even with certain actors in this that, you know, they have small roles, their impressions are left, but there are some that, you know, kind of just cookie cutter. But Walter Mosley, I think, is the one that, you know, wrote, I think, the series or the book this is based off of, and I think did an excellent job with this. This was directed well. I wish that the cinematography was a little bit better in certain instances. I definitely think that some stuff was kind of telegraphed in the last episode that I think it just didn't line up, and I feel like there's a lot more left on the table. But all in all, I did really, truly enjoy this, and it really was good for me in my soul. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this review. Definitely go and check it out March 11th on Apple TV Plus. I don't think you're going to be disappointed regardless. Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't gonna stop. Peace, guys.
Falling off the top